joining us. This is Overthunk. I'm Keegan. This is Ezra.
That I am.
And today we are doing our first movie review.
I'm very excited for this one.
Yes, absolutely. We are doing Annihilation by Alex Garland.
Is it a book? Do we say by Alex Garland?
Yes, directed by Alex Garland. Yeah.
Although, to your credit, it was very much his baby. He wrote the adaptation.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong. I apologize.
And he did Ex Machina, something we were both huge fans of.
Huge fans of.
Yeah.
In love with that movie.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So this is Annihilation. Quick thoughts. What did you think?
Quick thoughts. Very interesting movie.
Yeah.
I think I expected an interesting movie going in. Alex Garland, not that he's made loads of movies, but just from the one outing that we've had from him.
Yeah. He's done some writing, but yeah, this is the second movie.
Yes, quite a critically acclaimed writer, actually. Yeah. I haven't had a chance to read any of his books.
No.
But yeah, loved Ex Machina. Was very excited going into this film.
Yeah. I put this. We didn't actually do a most anticipated for our movies podcast, but this would have been on the list.
It would have been on yours?
100%.
Yeah. The trailer, the way it was shot, really beautiful. Got me salivating, frothing,
like one of the creatures in the movie.
Oh,
yeah.
Hey. Topical. And despite myself, because I'm very much a anti-trailer guy, I truly believe that the purest film experience is going in without having seen the trailer. Difficult to do nowadays.
Impossible.
Trailer culture is actually quite big.
Yeah, and if you're anticipating like a big movie, you're going to want to see little snippets of it.
It's really true.
It's unavoidable.
Having said that, there are a couple of things. I think it's more so for blockbuster films that some plot points and character development does kind of get ruined by the trailer. But I think not so much for this one. The trailer really just did get me intrigued. So as soon as it dropped, when you told me, hey man, Annihilation's up on Netflix, I was like, oh, I've got to go see that now. And I did, and I have some mixed feelings about it. About the movie as a whole. But an enjoyable watching experience.
Yeah, overall.
I'll have to say.
Yeah. I think to follow up, Ex Machina is tough because we love that thing.
We do.
But yeah, I think overall he's done a great job. Yeah, I think he's sort of played to his strengths where he's sort of more interested. Alex Garland, I speak of the he here. He's more interested in big ideas, big themes, and the narrative flow of everything than he is in character, really. And that shows here, I think. Yeah. Loved it overall. Yeah. Really enjoyed it.
Great. Yeah. Not quite masterpiece.
No. There are some flaws here, which we'll get into, definitely.
Yeah, enjoyable movie experience. I think it was a bit of a slow build.
Yeah, definitely.
And at times, maybe to its detriment. I don't think it's so much of a pacing issue.
No, it's not. I think
Ex
it does pace quite organically, I think.
And Ex Machina as well. It wasn't grab you by the balls, give you an exciting ride from the beginning sort of film.
Slow burn is always more effective with this sort of...
Oh, of course. If you're trying to make someone think, you don't really want to hit them with everything
definitely not.
in the face. But I think... Exactly, and that was one of our fauourite films.
Exactly.
2017. Yeah. But I think maybe my issues with the film in terms of performance and visual effects and storyline, etc., when those start to nag at you, then the slow build might get worse because you almost have more of this empty space in the film to kind of think about and harp on these things that you're not enjoying.
Were the elements of all of those things that nagged at you? Performance, visuals, everything?
Yes. Okay. I think, it's a slow build, but I would recommend it to people. My biggest takeaway from this film was how much I both loved and hated almost every aspect of it.
Okay.
It's got some of, if we're going to talk about performances, let's say, it's got some really, really great performances. I think Oscar Isaac as usual,
Yeah,
at least for me, and I know
yeah.
you're a big fan
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
You kind of look like
I model my look after
Your
him
whole
in
look.
Ex Machina.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac Ex Machina right now. Just grow that beard out a bit,
Yeah.
dance with a robot girl, and lift some weights. And, like we could shoot a parody.
The hardest part of that is lifting the weights,
Yeah.
not the robot girl.
Yeah,
Lifting the
we
weights.
can Technology's caught up. We're there.
Yeah.
I can do it now. To be fair, very much out of our price range. Not that I've price checked robot girls though at all. I could never think of doing that. I'm super happy in my relationship. I think Oscar Isaac put in such a compelling performance. Not to delve too deep into spoiler territory, but it did require almost playing two characters, just in a way that it kind of transpires, in the way that the story kind of moves. And he had enough connection between those two kind of parts he had to play, while also making them different enough. And I think his chemistry with Natalie Portman was absolutely amazing, especially in a lot of those flashback sequences. I thought it was really great. Flashback sequences are difficult to do and make feel organic.
Yes.
But I think the strength of their performances in those moments, almost made you forget that you were in a flashback sequence. Natalie Portman's performance was, for the most part, pretty good. Had a couple of issues with overacting, but not major issues. It was moments, let's say a minute out of her screen time, which is probably like over an hour.
Yeah, well, she's virtually in every scene of the movie.
So, having said that, very negligible. But I think a pet peeve of mine is when an actor or actress ever does this. Can't deal with it. I think it's just the worst. Pantomime, I'm so confused movement. I feel like that should have died in like
the 70s.
The Wizard of Oz is the last time anyone should be allowed to go. But it happens.
I don't remember that, so it didn't bother me as much as it did.
And I realize that that's a super specific issue.
Very specific.
That most people probably don't have. But it felt very improv drama class, or like you're on stage. The beauty of film is the fact that you don't really have to act for a room where there are people who are far away and some people are close. And that did kind of nag at me a little bit. Having said that, like I said, like those two performances. On the flip side, was super frustrated with Jennifer Jason Leigh. So excited to see her after her performance in Hateful Eight. I was, she completely blew me away in that movie. What a repulsive character, played so beautifully. Really got under my skin. And I think she's an amazing actress. And to an extent, I don't think it's her fault, having watched the film. Because it was very clearly the direction that the character 100%. Was supposed to go. It's how it was written. But just the level of disinterest, it seemed, and just no emotion, which could be a part of a character.
I'm going to let you finish your rant about the performances before. But
which could be part of a character, but for the most part, I just found myself confused, but not wanting to understand. Just going, why is this in front of me? Can I get back to the good stuff? Tessa Thompson didn't put in a terrible performance, I don't think. She was okay as the physicist, I believe. Jennifer Jason Leigh was the psychologist. I thought she was okay, but then she had some really terrible moments. One of the ones later, I don't think it's giving away too much. She goes into a small monologue. It's very much her moments when she talks about being this terrified and this scared just before you die, and then that being the part of you that lives on. It's so horrible. And it started to feel really good, that monologue, and then she ends it off in just the most infantile, cheesy line of going, "I wouldn't want that to happen to me." and they sit on it for a little bit too, just like a while too long for me to kind of dismiss it. And I was just going, "Oh, something's coming? Oh no, that's it. That's where that line ends. Cool. You don't care if it happens to you, clearly, because that was a throwaway line." But other than that, pretty good. I thought Benedict Wong was very good. He didn't have a big role, I enjoyed him.
That hazmat suit from the whole movie.
What were you feeling about the performances?
I think Natalie Portman was stellar. There was nothing. I don't have any complaints about Natalie Portman's performance in that movie
I mean, maybe just to clarify, I thought her performance was great, except for a little hand wave.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay,
And like I said,
if that's your only complaint,
like I said,
fair enough.
I'm definitely nitpicking.
Yeah, I think she was great. I think she really sold. I think that character on paper isn't the best written character around. I think she elevates it tremendously. Then we have Oscar Isaac. I don't think I love Oscar Isaac's performance as much as you do.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it was great. I think it was solid.
Okay.
I don't think it was quite the knockout performance that maybe you think it was. And I don't think I was annoyed by Jennifer Jason Leigh as much as you were. So I think we were very much opposite in a lot of these things. But yeah, that's the beauty of these things.
Also possible that the other things that we'll discuss, the way that they frame these characters, how you took them, may be different from me, and then
this is what I'm getting to. Yeah, and I think that Jennifer Jason Leigh's performance makes sense for the character because we learn about her situation later on in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that up to that point, yes, up to that point I was sort of like, you know, is this really the performance we're going to begin from here? Until that revelation, then it starts to make sense. And I think it might play a bit better on a second viewing.
Mm-hmm. Out of interest, have you had a second viewing?
No, I haven't.
I also only watched it once.
Yes, this is the first viewing review. Tessa Thompson's performance, I think, was quite understated. And again, I think it makes sense for the character. I think we're used to seeing Tessa Thompson a lot more bold in her performances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Thor Ragnarok we had in Creed, where she was sort of this...
very similar characters.
Yeah, quite vibrant in both of those roles. And this is a bit of a departure for her. And I think also, again, the revelation that, you know, there's that one scene where one character is explaining to another character about each other character and what their individual situation is. And I think in the context of that, it does sort of make sense why, you know, her performance is the way that it is. So yeah, I don't have a big issue there. I think the issue isn't really with the performances and more with the characterization, like I said at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll get more into that.
In terms of the visuals
Yeah.
for the film, I was very confused because I saw some of the best and worst cinematography that I've seen this year.
Cinematography or production design?
Both. So I'm going to go into both.
Okay.
All three, because I'm going to visual effects as well.
Visual effects is what I meant to say, not production design.
Oh, okay. Well, we can talk about production design as well. From a cinematography point of view, some really well done, I think. So, yeah, let me break it down piece by piece. There are some very cool lighting effects done in this film.
Yes.
There are simultaneously some absolutely horrendously lit shots.
Okay.
And I get using bad lighting for effect. Let me not say bad lighting. A not well lit scene could have its place. But I didn't like the fact that I guess half of the film was set in a super dark environment. There was some moments between characters where I really would have liked to get more of a sense of what was going on. And I kind of struggled to see. It might have just been me, but I think the lighting was very much a hindrance in that respect. I guess I'm referring mostly to the night shots, but even some of them inside some of the buildings. I really was just struck. I felt like something was being shown that I was meant to pay attention to and to get something from, and I was just kind of like really struggling to grasp. So that was a bit of a frustrating point. Having said that, there are some great shots in the outdoors.
Yes.
The way that they don't fall into sort of the Avatar trap of this is a crazy plant. This can really hurt you. Oh look. One of these creatures that's tails sync with another creature so that they can work in harmony. No, very little exposition. I love it. Show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Mwah. Filmmaking. Mwah. So I really enjoyed that. Some of the, establishing shots of the environment. Just the very subtle, especially early on, the very subtle clues of the change happening inside of the show.
Yeah.
Great. I loved that, and I felt part of the world with that. So that was kind of cool. There was some of the editing was really good. I can't think of all of them offhand, but there's this really great edit with a crocodile's mouth closing and the sound almost being of a door closing, and then the next So that edit goes into a transition of a door opening into the next one, and I was just blown away.
Oh,
I
yes.
actually had to stop.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that was cool. I got really excited by that edit.
Yeah.
So that was cool. You know me. And edits.
Yes, and edits.
That's like a very big thing for me. So I got really hyped up for that. So that semi lasted me like 5 minutes into the rest of the film, just from that edit, which was great. I think from I guess also fitting into the cinematography, maybe also visual effects, some of the colors were absolutely disgusting.
Disgusting in a
in
negative
a
way.
terrible way.
Okay.
There are some really good. So, for instance, the shimmer, I think, was visually realized so well.
Yeah.
A lot of the environment in terms of the flora and fauna, so your foliage and animals, whether that be the main kind of creatures that come in, or, just your small things, really good. Some of the color grading on the costumes that they're wearing and other things just kind of sickened me a little bit. I don't think that it was graded well, and it kind of started to strike me as almost an older Marvel film in that kind of sickly, very average color grading. But then there are some, like I said, beautiful moments where the vibrance and the colors just hit you, and it's a feast for the eyes. Okay. That was a bit of a strange kind of, dichotomy for me. Visual effects were weird because there are some really well done ones. The crocodile, alligator, crocodile, one of the two.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Crocodile.
stunning.
Yeah.
The vocal cord bear.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, terrifying, brilliantly realized from a visual point of view. I think
and how we see the bear first through the night vision in its full form, and then we see a more sort of
viscerally and
eroded bear in the next. Yeah.
Stunning. I think the crowning achievement for this film in terms of visual effects is the kind of shimmering mass that is encountered in the cave. I'm keeping this very vague so as not to spoil anything. I think you remember what I'm talking about.
Yes,
the blood goes in. And just that, the way that they did that was so confusing to me. Even in 2018, there are some things that I know just are very difficult to pull off. And that looked far too good.
Yeah.
I was absolutely blown away by that. Followed immediately by just the worst CGI humanoid model I've seen in a long time. Since the closing fight of Black Panther, maybe.
Ooh.
Can I say that? Have I ruined everything for us? I don't know. I was so disappointed with that. I loved its importance in the plot. I loved what it meant and the significance of it, but I kind of was distracted by how terrible it was rendered. How terribly it was rendered. So I was very much in two minds about the visuals, which perhaps, as we've discussed, is why I took the performances a little bit differently, because my attention was being pulled, maybe.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I also have a bit of the visual sort of contrast, in a sense, in a different way. I think that the movie does a great job of presenting the beautiful and the completely disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, it does that really well. You have the sort of purple color scheme of the shimmer that sort of radiates through most shots. You see it not only when you're looking at the actual shimmer, you see it in the lighting when the sort of sun is beaming through the shimmer. Right down to the beautiful, like floral arrangements almost. And some of those visuals sort of look like something out of The Last of Us in a sense, and it's sort of apocalyptic nature. Right to that final beach scene where you get the wide shot of her walking through and there's crystalline trees.
That's a stunning shot.
That's a stunning shot too. And then on the other hand, we get the grotesque with the sort of crocodile and the bear. And I think it was really well done overall. I do have a problem with the CGI human.
That humanoid thing.
That was a bit before we see what it is. In its raw form, it looks a bit, doesn't look too great.
Yeah, very 2003.
Yeah, very much, very iRobot almost. Okay. Yeah, even some of the physics of it.
And I almost think iRobot worked within its limitations a little bit better.
Yeah.
For the time.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like all the budget for Annihilation was spent on the precursor to the humanoid thing.
Yeah.
The shimmering masks. That was done so well. And I think it's just because those two were so like right next to each other that I was a bit confused. You've just shown me the best CGI. Yeah. Why has it been followed by this?
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I think the visual palette across cinematography, visual effects was the third thing.
Production design.
Production design, that's what I'm looking for. I think it's fairly consistent across the board, and for great visual experience, definitely.
Let's talk about the soundtrack for a second. I thought it was pretty good.
I do, yeah.
For the most part.
I agree.
And I think that's one of the things that I almost knew was going to be great because
Ex
Machina.
It has to be, yeah.
Yeah, so like to set the tone for this sort of film, as you say, it has to be good. And in addition, Ex Machina's soundtrack was woo.
Yeah.
That's the adjective for that soundtrack. Woo! So good. Absolutely stunning.
What are you, Ric Flair?
Yeah. Fits into this movie because he is the nature boy.
I like it.
Switch. Yeah, the soundtrack was really good. The use of, I guess, that kind of synth-heavy score has, we're at the point now where that's not new. So there are tropes that you can fall into. So it is, even though it's not just a standard film score by any,
it's not
by any metric. Still very easy to fall into the trap of being quite monotonous. Oh, this is a Stranger Things type soundtrack. Is it? Oh, we're going for a Blade Runner vibe over here. And I really feel like it carved out its own lane. It was futuristic in sound. It sounded futuristic enough that I was put into a sort of space where my suspension of disbelief is heightened, where all these things that are coming at me.
Which is what a good score does.
Exactly. It doesn't seem foreign anymore. No. I believe it. I'm in the world. Yeah. As well as I thought it really ramped up the tension quite well. And it very much served its purpose. I think the only part of the soundtrack that I maybe didn't love was during a couple of the flashback scenes. We used a lot of this acoustic indie, and I don't want to say cheesy. Perhaps it's not cheesy. It felt cheesy. The use of these acoustic indie tracks in the background of these moments that I think could have lived in a different soundscape. I think they would have worked without kind of forcing me into that tender mood with these cool little acoustic jams that I'm supposed to think about a happy relationship, because that's what these songs usually frame. And I feel like it was just such a weird break from the sound of the rest of the film, which annoyed me because, like I spoke about earlier, the edits and the kind of flow of it meant that the flashbacks weren't the worst thing in the world, and I don't usually like flashbacks, but the way that they worked could have done well if sonically the tone of the film kept the same.
Yeah.
Having said that, perhaps that was a choice because they didn't want to have too much of a precursor to maybe what is to come in the story, trying to very much lead you in a direction for a bait and switch, which is also understandable.
Yes. My thoughts are similar on the soundtrack. I think that, especially towards the end of the film, we get that sort of synth-heavy soundtrack that you're talking about. To me, it sounds lifted straight out of an Ark album, which is great. I love that. There's that track. It's actually, if you look up the soundtrack on Apple Music, the track "The Alien" is what plays during that sequence, and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely beautiful. So across most of the movie, we get that sort of synth soundtrack that just sounds wonderful, and it sets the tone beautifully. It's exactly the type of thing I want to be hearing in this type of movie. But then those acoustic moments sounded so out of place to me. It just completely took me out of the moment. And the thing is, it wasn't just used for those flashbacks. There were some moments where it was used when they were just traversing through the shimmer. And
you're not wrong.
That to me was pretty jarring. I didn't quite... Maybe they were sort of going for... Because it was actually used during those sections where the shimmer was pretty, like a lighter sort of visual palette. Maybe they were trying to go for the beauty of it in those moments. And but it just sort of took me out of the overall tone of the movie. Just didn't work.
Yeah. I don't think it was necessary to shy away from that. I think people were probably ready and prepared for for it
Yeah.
to be like that.
Yeah. But that actually leads me into my next sort of criticism, is that the flashbacks, especially there's a certain, I can't get into spoilers here, but there's a certain sequence of flashbacks. It gets into a certain subplot that I don't really like, and it has to do with Lena and her private life. Yeah, that just some of the subplots in this movie just didn't really work for me. That was one of them, and the other one...
I think I know which one you're referring to.
The other one is sort of like lifted straight out of your tropey horror film that illustrates some sort of discord between the characters, which I guess does sort of have some kind of narrative relevance in terms of the show and what it does to people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just didn't really work for me, and it felt straight out of one of the cheapest horror films that you can rent. So yeah, that's
Okay.
Yeah.
I think to wrap it up, I don't think that Annihilation is the movie that it could have been.
Okay.
I was far more excited to watch the movie than I was entranced by it while I was watching it, and I didn't find myself thinking about it for as long as I would have liked after it was finished. I do think it's fair to mention that Alex Garland had been in talks with Paramount Pictures to make this film, and he has expressed quite vocally that he is frustrated with the fact that it went straight to Netflix, that he made it for cinema.
Yeah.
Perhaps some of the visuals and the choices in terms of cinematography and visual effects might have looked better in a packed cinema with that great sound system, etc. Having said that, it got a theatrical release in the States, so maybe some people have experienced that. We didn't have that luxury. Perhaps that is something that I should consider, but I don't think so, because it was a Netflix film. That's how I'm going to consume it, and can't really swing how I feel about it too much. I think that the theme of the film and a lot of the concepts that are brought forward were very interesting, and I enjoyed how the sort of things that it made me think about while the film was going, and some interesting questions and some interesting approaches. And one thing I will say is that it's a very unique film, and you're not going to find this sort of film absolutely everywhere. And for that reason, I would recommend this film to most people. I think everyone should watch Annihilation. It is an enjoyable film, and you'll get something out of it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think my review is slightly more positive than yours. I think a lot of that has to do with our different perspectives on the performance. I think that despite some inconsistencies, I think that the movie is sort of lifted by its final act, which I can't really get into because of spoilers. That final act is really what sort of saves the movie from being too run-of-the-mill here. And yeah, I think, like you said, the themes and ideas I was thinking about it for quite a while after I'd finished it.
Okay.
Yeah, I strongly recommend it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think it's brought down by some of the subplots and some of the characterization and character motivation, but yeah, overall.
Wow. I think our grading is going to be pretty interesting then.
I think it is.
So how would you score
I'm going
this?
with the 7.5.
Going with the 7.5?
Out of 10,
yeah. Like I said, perhaps too nitpicky, but the sheer body of annoying things that I found in the film did drag me out of it quite a bit. I did enjoy it, and I think perhaps my ratings are stricter than most, but that will even out in comparison to other ratings. But I'm going to give Annihilation a 6.
Ooh. So we're looking at a 6.75 out of 10. 6.8. We'll round it up.
Yeah, we'll round it up. Annihilation Overthunk rating is 6.8.
Fair.
Cool.
Right, so that's our Annihilation review. We will be doing more movie reviews in the future, in addition to some compilation of classic movies. Look out for our Quentin Tarantino ranking coming up, hopefully within the next few weeks, I think. Yeah, like and subscribe. Awesome.
Yeah. And if you'd like us to review any films that you think are really good or really bad, shoot us a recommendation. We're very open. We've mentioned this before, but a lot of free time. At the moment, career trajectory is very much in a flat plane. So give us something to do, and we'll give you below average content in return.